I wanted to make a follow-up video about the last one that had the topic of lean back and recline into your soul. Some of you might be asking, well, Renegade, how do I lean back into my soul? What is my soul? How do I find my soul? Your soul, to find your soul, you have to meditate or become very still with this thing. This thing has to be really still. You have to stop your thinking processes. And that for me often is when I take a shower, or I pull weeds in the garden, or I work with my hands, wash dishes. That's when this is completely quiet. And it's usually like when you're in the shower and it sounds like there's a voice in the back of your head that will ask. It'll startle you with a question or with a doubt. And you're thinking, well, where did that come from? And of course, our ego mind, our mental mind, is going to identify that as the voice of God or the Holy Spirit talking to us. But that voice is actually the voice of your soul. It speaks very quietly, and you can only hear it when you are not busy and distracted with activities and information and movies and things that you take in with your five senses. It's very quiet. Once you hear that voice and you know where it's coming from, you can make the connection that that is your soul. And your soul wants to talk with you. Your soul does not want to talk with God, because the soul actually is God, is what our mind has misidentified. And your soul will never want to speak to God. It wants to speak to you. Whereas it's your ego mind that seeks to talk to God, because the ego mind lives in the realm of conscious separation. But your soul, that feeling, the voice that rises from deep below in your belly, that is your divine spark. That is what we misidentified as God's voice. But it is actually God, but because we associate it with as something within ourselves, our mind says that can't be God, because God is bigger than that. How can God be my soul? Right? When you remember the story in the Old Testament when Elijah hid in the cave and he was waiting for God to talk to him, and first there came a thunderstorm and lightning and a hailstorm and an earthquake, and then it says none of those were God. None of those were God's voice. But then he said, I heard a still small voice. And that is when he hid himself in the rocks, he realized that this still small voice in him was actually the voice of God, is your soul. And like I say, once you take note of that, you'll become more proficient of hearing it and trusting it. But that is you, your higher self, your spirit, and that is what you can lean back into. As you lean back into yourself, into your soul, into your higher self, into that divine aspect of you. And your soul will take very good care of you. Your soul is what gives you the gut feeling when you sense something, when you sense danger and things like that. There is that gut feeling, that sixth sense. That is your soul. That is the divine aspect that goes outside of your five senses, of your five sensory human awareness. So, yeah, that is how you find your soul. And you need to discipline yourself to become acquainted with your soul. And you're going to want to love your soul. You're going to want to relate to your soul, connect to your soul. This is all the same stuff that we have mistaken for connecting to an outside God, outside of us. Your soul is God. Your soul is that divine aspect that we call God. And you're supposed to be in relationship with that. It is part of you. It is you. So you're not having a relationship with a spirit outside of you. You're having that relationship and connection. You're intimately connected to your own soul as it is nestled within you and outside of you. It encapsulates your human physicality. You're human. You're also the soul that encapsulates your human. It's just different dimensions of awareness. But the love affair with your own soul, in my experience, has been much more fruitful than my former relationships with the concept of Jesus or God being external of me. To bring it into me and to realize that this is God has been the most fruitful transformation that I have ever experienced. Christianity was a complete bummer. My relationship with Jesus was a complete bummer. It had its limitations, and at some point, it just wasn't satisfying anymore. Until until I awakened to my soul within me. And that's the most beautiful experience I have ever had. So, yeah, if you want to find your soul, pay attention, pay quiet attention when you take showers or wash dishes by hand to that quiet voice that rises up from behind you. And usually it asks you a question that'll make you sit up and doubt or question, have you think about whatever the question is to get some deeper insights that your mental intellect, ego, hasn't been able to bring forth, right? So again, if you're having a relationship with Jesus or an external God, that is your ego talking to God. But your soul will never want to talk to God. Your soul is God wanting to talk to you. Does that make sense? Anyways, Happy soul searching.